Good evening and welcome to the December meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee. And boy, we have a lot of dignitaries with us tonight. We got Chief Farley from Fire and That's funny. But we do have several of the judges with us, Judge Bragg, Judge Wilson. I'll never remember your last name, Judge Scott, I would say.
As long as you remember who to vote for.
Yeah, I got it there. You know, that happens when you get older.
That's okay.
We meet in the hallway at St. Thomas as we're in the process of getting knee replacements. But first on the agenda, we'll entertain a motion on the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes, and it's been brought to our attentions that we do have one correction to make. When we were discussing all the changes of scheduling of upcoming meetings, we had placed in there a date of June 23rd. That is an incorrect date. It should be June 25th rather than that. So we'll place an amendment on these amendments to change that to June 25th, and I make the motion with the amendment to have it approved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I believe we also said about that June 25th meeting that it'll probably be canceled because it's the one right after. Okay. All right, well, we'll begin tonight. Their judges coming forward if they would, and Commissioner Stevens is with them because we're going to talk about the circuit court and the need for another circuit court judge. Some of the problems that we have with growth.
I'll let Commissioner Stevens take the lead.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you for having me and our distinguished guests tonight. I think Commissioner Schaefer's already with Judge Bragg and then Chancellor Wilson. This is an issue that we need to begin to address. With the growth that we have, we're behind a judge and a half with our state judge positions. And we would like to ask the committee tonight to consider sending a motion on for the commission to consider in the future about asking the state to create a new circuit judge position and have that position elected in August of next year for a 4-year term, and then to get on the regular 8-year cycle with all the other judges. I'm in the courts quite often, and the dockets are full, the hallways are full, and as we move to the new building, it just seems like now's a good time for us to consider adding this position. This is a state position, so the state would have to create it, and of course the state would fund the judge, and of course the county's got the office space and the furniture, and I think the county would also have to furnish a law clerk, but it's just a position that we're going to have to create at some point and move forward with. So the judges that are here have some data and some interesting information for you if you have any questions about the need and why we should act on this quickly tonight.
Well, I think we can see a lot of things about this position, but we'd like to hear it because people want to know in this county what happens to their money, right? Their taxes that they pay, and I was trying to, when I talked to Judge Wilson earlier, I couldn't remember. I think Judge Ash was the last one new position that we got in this county, and that was quite some time ago. So if you
Well,
just explain.
I'll share the floor with Judge Bragg. Like Robert said, this is a state position. What we're trying to do, we've had a need for a state judge for some time now, and what we're trying to do is get the ball rolling. Of course, our state legislature is going to have to sponsor a bill and get some consensus on whether we get the funding for a new state judge, but it's certainly something that we feel like we need. I want to pass out what's called a weighted case study, and I flagged the pages that are important or relevant for tonight's discussion. Everybody have one? Yeah. And as you can see, this goes back through. It started 2007, but really they started a new model in 2013. And so the first thing I point out is on page 4, it talks about our district, which is District 16, Rutherford and Cannon counties. And it says it shows a need for 1.42 judges for the year 2016, an increase of 0.25 judges from 2015. District 16 showed an increase of only 55 total filings from year 2015, but saw an increase in felony C, D, and E cases from 157 from 2015. Historically, District 16 has shown judicial need for over one judge since the model was adjusted in 2013. If you turn to page 6, it sort of gives you a time frame there. In 2013, they showed us a need for a 1.28 judge. It went slightly, it decreased slightly in 2015 and 14 to 1.17. Of course, now we're all familiar with the growth that Rutherford County has had, and we're back up to where we need. We're down 1.42 judges in this judicial district. Also, I have just sort of a synopsis of the cases that we hear and the number that we hear. I'll pass this out. And if I could summarize, basically it just tells you that in our judicial district there are 5 state trial judges. And we've heard, counting both civil and criminal cases, over 11,000 cases between the 5 of us. So that gives you some sort of idea of what we're dealing with.
Could you tell me, Montgomery and Robertson, this shows that they have a greater need, and I think it's the only one I saw as I looked down through there, a greater need for circuit court judges than us.
They had a great need 2 years ago. They were actually down about over 2 judges, and the state legislature just granted them a judicial position.
And that judge has not been in long enough to count toward those numbers yet.
So they were the last judicial district that received a new judge position.
And they've had a lot of growth too, and of course they border with Fort Campbell. They have a lot of population and activity that comes from that area. But not the same amount of
Up
growth.
there too.
Not the same amount of growth that, as y'all know,
Yeah.
that we've had here.
See what's been presented. Do we have any questions for any of them? I do have one though about Commissioner Stevens mentioned the law clerk. Is that us or is that the state?
The law clerk is the state, and if Chancellor will let me speak, years ago, you're probably familiar with the bailiff position. And we used to have a bailiff in all the courts. And the bailiff was there to take care of some minimal security needs, but mostly to swear people in, to keep the court, tell people to take their hats off and that sort of thing during court sessions. Several years ago, Judge Daniel came to the commission and said, I would like to change that position from a bailiff to a law clerk, because a lot of the things I do involve a lot more research than they do telling people to take their hats off. So if you'll let me have the same amount of money I had for a bailiff and let me hire an attorney who's just graduated from law school and let them serve not only the bailiff job but also do research and help with preparing and drafting orders, then that would be a better use of that money, because if I'm not in trial, the bailiff really doesn't have a whole lot to do. And so the county made that transition at Judge Daniel's request, and I think all the judges would tell you that that was a good change for the use of the county taxpayers' money. My bailiff, I hear all criminal matters, and my bailiff, my clerk, spends a lot of time answering jail mail, which I'm not allowed to look at because that'd be ex parte communication. So that takes some of the load off there. She also helps me with drafting orders after I've had motion hearings and preparing for court, looking through the files to see what's coming up that day.
And what is that?
It's about $30,000 a year.
And so with benefits, they get county benefits?
They are on county benefits. I don't know if that's included in that $30,000 number or not. Most of us hire a bailiff and tell them, congratulations, you're going to get to see how courts work. You've graduated from law school, and we anticipate after you've served in this position for some period of time, for my clerks it's always been 12 months, you'll move on. because this is just kind of a learning experience. And that also prevents us from having any longevity issues coming up and that salary having to go up and track up.
Of course, this will go through our commission to request from the our legislative delegation to carry this forward, right?
Yes, sir.
That, so it's up to them, but if we're unanimous on it, it's hard for them to turn it down, I would think. Anybody have any questions? Further questions? Understand everything?
Make a motion that we approve the request and move forward with presenting it to the commission to present to our state body.
Second. Motion is second.
Is that going to steering committee?
Well, we'll probably go to budget first next time, isn't it? Maybe steering.
Steering is before budget.
Next, this month? I don't think it is. January.
They set the date, yes.
Steering is January
Yeah, we're the
3rd.
8th. the
Third, so it's the day before. Okay. I knew it wasn't going to be the first, because I don't think many of them would have wanted to show up that day. Commissioner Gurley, just to fill you in real quick, is that Judge Wilson, Bragg, Davenport, and Commissioner Stevens speaking some facts also about the need for a circuit court judge in Iowa in this county. And so that's what we're voting on, is to send it on and get to the commission on the 11th of January. I'm figuring it's going to go through the committees, and then there'll be plenty of time to get it filed up in Nashville.
I'm hoping too, with steering, we're supposed to meet with our state delegation
The
in
third.
January, yeah, so we can
Go ahead and put
hopefully
it on their
mention that
radar
too.
then.
Yeah, just get it on their radar that this is something we need.
Okay. Let's go ahead then and take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes. So that's 7-4 right now.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
My favorite one as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Good to see you. Thank you.
Have a Kit Kat.
Y'all got a little more time to go. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
I think we have a date for that meeting.
Moving on to fire and rescue.
Said that while going everybody laughed, kind of give me a complex. The total call volume for the month of November was 245 calls. We had 110 EMS calls, 73 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 67 motor vehicle accidents without injuries.
Does that mean 140?
Yep.
Okay,
Total
so,
wrecks.
I mean, you have total wrecks.
Yeah, I just classify them as MVAs with injuries and MVAs without injuries. And then we had, for the month of November, 5 extrications. And we had 3 structure fires. Total number of runs for the year, Rutherford County Fire Rescue. We've had 72 structure fires. We've run 2,300 medical calls. We've run 348 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 285 without injuries, and had 33 extrications. For a total of 4,573 calls. And I think for the total year, yesterday, we're going to be over 6,500 calls for the year, countywide. The next sheet is the rundown for the volunteer departments and their call volume and training hours. For the total countywide, we had 98 structure fires, 114 brush fires, and 89 vehicle fires. We actually completed 13 swiftwater rescues this year, and we had 944 MVAs for total. 45 of those were extrications, and of course, we have a total of 5,697 calls. That's kind of comparison In 2010, when the mayor created county fire department, we were in 1,300 calls countywide. So it's increased a lot as the growth has come on. And then, of course, out there, the size of training hours for each individual department for the total year. Next sheet is the structure fire of structures that were damaged that we turned into the codes department. And then the next sheet is just the report on the fire investigations and what the conclusion was. Next sheet is a map we did with the assistance of Sheriff's Office. It shows the, for the month of November, 314 calls countywide and approximately where those calls were located at. As far as the MVAs, I-24 keeps us pretty busy.
How many deaths were there on the highways in this county, do you know?
Pardon?
How many deaths from motor vehicles was it this year?
In the state,
No, in our county.
I don't know offhand.
I was curious. I mean, you had 73 last month and with injuries, just.
I know we seem to have a lot of motorcycle deaths. I mean, the traffic's just so heavy. And that just kind of gives you an overall look of we're kind of spread out over the county of different calls, and of course it breaks it down on the side, which is commercial fire alarms, fires, MVAs, and other alarms. We deal with a lot of, and of course ambulance service does too, but we deal with a lot of overdoses, a lot of unresponsives and stuff. And that concludes my report with the exception of 2 budget meetings.
Okay, and then, any questions on the report?
I just want to mention, I made one of those calls about 2 weeks ago with some of your guys. I got notice that it was out my way, and I was able to go there one Sunday afternoon and got there about the time all your guys had gotten there. And it was a situation where a truck had exploded in a garage, and they were able to get the truck out, and you had I think you had an engine and a tanker there, and they were putting the wire in. When the individuals who had pulled the truck out had pulled it out next to a propane tank, but they had water and they was putting it on that tank in there. It gave me an opportunity to explain some of the expense that we have on those pumper trucks, but y'all were in the process of putting 3,000 gallons of water from that pumper, which without those new pumpers would have been almost impossible to have done. And there was a few of my constituents, I guess, standing around there, and we were able to discuss the importance of those pumpers that we have out there now that come from the volunteer stations we have and from the county stations. And that was just, it was good to see how that worked and how it happened there, and get your money's worth, and how it was being done. But those pumpers mean so much out here in this county, that where we don't have the water lines, we don't have the hydrants to do that we put that much water at a site just like that and have it. The new pumpers haul 1,000 gallons of water, the new tankers haul 3,000 gallons of water. So just those 2 trucks, we have 4,000 gallons on wheels. And of course the pumpers are, they're considered tankers, but they have pumps on, they can pump too, so you can actually fight fire off of them. Which I'm sure they're probably using the tanker and before they could. All of them there too. Yeah, I heard about that. It knocked you down pretty quick. It makes a lot of difference when you have plenty of water. Plenty of water. There was an injury on there on the site too, but I think they treated him till the EMS got there. Yeah. Good job. Appreciate it.
Further questions in the report? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the board as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Maybe you got 2 budget amendments.
We sold 2 of the old engines that were 26 years old. We sold them, actually sold them to Lincoln County for $10,000 a piece, which is $20,000. I'd like to transfer that $20,000 into my part-time personnel. And you must just do both of them.
Well, let's just take them one at a time, maybe some questions on the other one. Okay, any questions on this amendment? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the amendment as requested.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further questions? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
The next budget amount is coming from mayor's budget to mine for $25,000. Had discussion with Mayor Burgess, letting him know that all the volunteer fire departments out in the county that got received bottles, air packs on their 01 truck and 02 truck 25 years ago and 15 years ago, those have started to expire, and so they have no air bottles to utilize in case of fire. So the mayor's giving me $25,000 along with $65,000 I have in my budget that we're going to add, and we're going to try to replace the air packs as best we can throughout the county.
How long will they last?
15 years. The bottles, the composite bottle lasts 15 years. Some of the bottles we first got back in 1990 were steel bottles, and they're good for a lifetime as long as they continue to hydrostatic test. But they weigh about 3 times what a composite bottle does. And of course, as time goes on, they deteriorate too. But this right here will hopefully replace enough bottles for each department has enough to operate.
What's the cost per bottle packed or
Well, the pack, just one pack is about $5,500.
$5,500?
That's for the air pack, the backpack, and then an extra bottle.
Any further questions?
And if you remember, we requested for 3 years to replace the packs through a grant. And if we replace the whole package, for the whole, it's about $475,000. So we're going to try to replace the bottles. And we applied 3 times to the FEMA grant, we got turned down, so.
Will these work on that filler that Eagle has out there? They have a multi-filler tank.
Yeah, these will. They're 2216 bottles, 30-minute bottles. And I would guess they have 4,000 PSI bottles that fill that. The 45-minute bottles, which what we have, we've gotten through some grants as time went on, take 6,000 PSI bottles, so I think they will. Because you can fill the 30-minute bottle off 4,000 PSI bottles, but you cannot with 45. You have to have a bigger, it's more air capacity. But I think with what most of them have, this will replace what they have.
So you're just buying bottles, not packs? you know?
Yeah, because we can, well, yeah, because the packs itself would be about $400,000.
They don't expire?
Not as long as they can, not as long, and that's part of the contract of the fire departments. Each year they have to have those flow tested. And what they do, the company comes out and hooks up to the backpack and makes sure air flows through it. If anything is damaged, like the MMR or the mouthpiece that goes on the face mask, they repair that, make repairs to it, make sure that these things stay operational. And as long as, and they can repair those and keep those going, but the bottles, because you're constantly filling them up with air, and as you fill them with air, if you fill them too fast, they expand. So over time, they recommend just taking them out of service after 15 years. Every year, every 3 years, they're supposed to have those tested for make sure that they hold air. The air, we require that the packs be tested every year. That's part of the expense that they incur, because when you put those packs on, you go inside a hazardous atmosphere with toxic gases. You got to be able to breathe clean air, and if that thing stops on you while you're in there, you could lose your life. So we want to make sure that they have them tested every year in their operation.
So you're buying new bottles?
We're buying new bottles.
I'll make the motion to approve this budget amendment. As requested.
We got a motion in a second. Any further questions? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. Thanks for coming with plenty of explanation on the last one.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the support.
All right. Miss Duke is in a hurry tonight.
I slid in kind of late last month, so thought I'd make sure that I was here on time. Okay, so tonight you have in front of you our monthly report for the month of November. And on the yearly activity report, you'll notice at the bottom that just about everybody has an outstanding balance, but even though some of those are quite large, I think the largest is probably Sumner County at almost $16,000. We are not concerned about collecting that money. Usually what happens is we receive the checks after the public safety meeting. So we had a big month last month. We billed almost $60,000. And it's just taking time for those checks to come in and for us to get them marked down and to clear off.
We're a little earlier this month with this meeting.
Right. But if you have any questions about that, I'll happily answer them. Of course, you also have the STD stats and our facility programming stats that I can answer any questions on, and then the rap sheet at the end.
Are all these amounts at the bottom of this page that are owed, is that for this current year? Any of them back up in the past year?
Oh, no. I believe these are actually all for just this last month. So everybody is what would be considered up to date. Oh, probably the only thing additional I could say about that is that there is one county that I won't name, but last time they had a large bill, they said that they needed to wait on some more taxes to come in before they could cut that check, but they kept up with us on a regular basis, and they may have been behind maybe a month, but they went ahead and got that paid as quickly as they could. It was a small county.
Any questions, Ms. Duke? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the report.
Motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
Second. No further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Happy Merry Christmas. Lieutenant Smitty, go. You want to come in with us?
He's hanging out right there, just creeping around in the dark. First up, we've got the monthly work center board meeting notes. You guys look through those. And in those, we also had a program sheet for a lot of the different list and of events and graduations we've had in the past month. Most recently, we hosted along with the sheriff and his crew, the Operation Bless a Child this past weekend. Where I think we serviced like about 800 inmates within Middle Tennessee. That's our 800 children incarcerated. And then we're set for high set testing again on December 21st, tentatively. Next is our yearly activity report, which no significant changes there. And our work release report, everything's going well with that. We're still all positions are filled. Our monthly worker report, you'll see that it reflects approximately $95,000 in savings for the month of November. Those are the guys that are going out in the community and doing work.
How much do the three cities use of people?
It's, how many do we send out per day now?
Currently, roughly around 30.
30 or
But with
40,
populations,
something like
can
that.
be as much as 50 to 60.
And then our state litter pickup for October.
Any questions? Talk about the specialty meals. Was that steak versus mushroom or something?
No, historically, what has happened, especially with ABL and Summit, they're now called Summit Food Service, they would provide meals for the staff for every shift. And those would cost in the county about, I think it was like $1.50 a piece. And under the new contract, they raised that to $3 a piece. Well, we've always kind of noticed that there was, about half of the staff would eat them. And it's not necessarily the inmate tray, it's a little different. It might be chicken tenders and tater tots or something like that. And, but we noticed that there was, especially over the past few months since we signed the new contract, that there was a little more waste. And obviously the price went up. So we're looking at about $20,000 extra a year. So we discussed that with the board about cutting those out. And I think, Mike, you went through that similarly there.
We did, and what we're doing now is $3 a meal, they can buy their meals, and we're not providing any meals.
That's what we're going to do too, is make them available, but the staff pay for them, so we don't have it. Which is, I mean, if you saw what was on those trays, you'd be pretty impressed for what you would get for $3. I mean, you're not going to go down to McDonald's and get that.
Yeah, I've heard some people brag on what's at the sheriff's office for that amount of money.
Yeah, for $3 you can't beat it.
Okay. Any further questions? No, we'll entertain a motion.
Move we approve the report.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I will have that specialty meal made into a steak for you next month.
There you go.
Stop by for a visit.
He's gonna put a 0 after the 3 for me to make it.
I'll make sure it's the $3 steak.
I'll chip in $1.
Hello, Mr. King.
Hello.
How are you?
How are y'all?
Good, how are you? Good.
We'll start with the drug court, status recovery courts. As you can see, each month we come in, our numbers are increasing, and you'll see the same here. We have about 130 by the end of November in our 4 programs at the recovery court office. So we've about tripled since I've been here about 3 years ago in our numbers that we're seeing. And it's ever increasing, which is amazing. But as you get to the drug court stats, you'll see it's still heavily favored for prescription medication, opiates. That's still our biggest battle right now, and that's just ever increasing. It's a lot harder to treat an opiate addict than it is, believe it or not, than a crack addict or anything else. It affects the brain differently. It's a lot harder to get them off. The state has been generous for those opiate addicts to allow us to give them a shot. As I told you before, it's about $1,000 to $1,200 a piece for that shot, and they remain on that shot for an entire year or longer. So that's a benefit for those that want it, but it's been helpful. DUI, it's about the same. It's pretty good. Our veterans numbers are there. We have maybe 3 or 4 more veterans coming in beginning of the year, so those numbers will increase and go up. Mental health court, we're kind of meeting our 25 limit for that one individual I have employed there, so that's, as you saw in the report, asking potentially you need to talk to the mayor about adding another one for mental health, because I think we could have 50 to 70 in that program within a few months if we had the staff ability to do it.
Judge Tidwell's planning on staying on.
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay, that's good. Any questions on the reports?
Make a motion to approve the reports as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we come to the-
Probation. So on probation, we're still working on determining when the clerk is going to pull out before we come back to ask for 2 extra positions to take over the collections, or however that's resolved. I know we were meeting Thursday, the judges, myself, and I believe the deputy mayor, to talk about pretrial and to actually create a pretrial services division to start doing that. And if we do go forward on that, and I think that's in all likelihood we will, we'll have to have at least 1 or 2 additional staff members to be able to supervise that pretrial release program. Those numbers could ballpark, how many do you think we would release in a year, Joe? Sheriff, do you have it?
On pre-trial? Hard to figure.
It's really hard for us to know right now until we can really
Jail and see what we've got, how we're gonna proceed, where we're gonna go forward.
So we get the software program in place that OIT's got for us. We can actually do our own analysis on this high risk assessment system that we're going to implement fully. We just barely implemented it, but once we implement this fully, we can take a look at the risk associated with an inmate. Either he's a category 1, 2, 3, or 4, I believe it is. And then we can start seeing, okay, are we having success, just the lowest risk, making it to their court appearance and not reoffending us. And so we'll just continue to move, and assess this as we go along. But that's what the meeting on Thursday's about, is really fully implementing the high risk assessment system.
If you wanted a number, and here again, it's tongue in cheek because of our computer system we've got. Right now today, we've got 482 that we class as pretrial. Of course, some of this to be is in the circuit side of the pretrial, so we'd have to really know what numbers we're dealing with specifically. But right now, I'm looking at 400 plus that we classify as pretrial out of say 850 inmates today. So about half our population. So it's going to be significant.
That'd be huge. And 2 may be minimal, but to start with.
Right.
And all we're trying to do is take them from the time that they're released to their first initial court appearance. So we have about a 30 to 40 day, that's all the time we're supervising. So it's not a lifelong commitment there, or a long-term commitment. But it will help save some of the costs of things. But getting to the budget stuff, or to the numbers, for the month of November, our total expenditures for the month were $111,493.50. Year-to-date, looks like, year-to-date, we are at $539,130 for expenditures. Revenue for the month, we brought in, just for the probation fees, was $81,818.09. And then time you look at the combined total with the clerks, the courts, and everything else, we brought in $195,196.71 for an overall difference of $83,703.21.
With the court costs, fees, and fines, that was actually what came in?
That's the money that comes in at the agency.
Okay.
So the total revenue that we are collecting down there was $195,196.71. That's how much is coming in the jail fund.
So we're still ahead.
We are.
Questions?
Are you still running out of space to put people?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I understood that there was gonna be a split between Melissa Harrell's office and your office as far as who's collecting money. Has she indicated she was gonna leave 2 people down there?
She hasn't talked about that, and that's kind of, I don't know if there will be enough room to even house her down there.
Well, I mean, I talked to her other night, and she kind of indicated to me she wanted to leave 2 people down there to go ahead and collect for her.
Right. I don't know if I don't know where we'll have space. That's the problem. I have
That's what I
4
kinda-
employees in that small area. I mean, I would love to have her and to try to
Right.
be neighborly, but I just don't have the
Well, I
space,
mean,
and that's part of
what I was discussing with her, that, you know, you didn't have the space and, or indicated you did.
Right.
And how y'all were gonna work that out, because I hadn't talked to you about it at that point. But, I just know, that was her plan.
I mean, if we could work it out where she could leave her people there and they could still collect our money, that's the way I'd rather go. I mean, that saves us 2 additional employees in the department. That's, you know, that's about $100,000 savings, by the time you include insurance and benefits. I'd rather not have to have that expenditure.
Great.
But
I know,
can't speak for
things on the
Melissa.
table.
How long has her office done that?
since we've taken over, since April of 2016.
Did we have to hire her 2 positions where she could do that?
I don't know if we hired or if, I'm not sure, Jody, you remember? Or if she absorbed it.
I think we did.
I don't recall. But I don't want to speak for her, I mean, if there's a way to keep them, I mean, it's not broke, it works well, we all collect our money. I think she was worried about some other audit things, working on 2 different cash drawers and collecting for 2 different agencies, if that would be an audit issue, and I understand that. But the statute allows her to collect probation fees. So that's the way we've been operating, is TCA allows her to do that for us.
It's the best way to do it, but good.
It's easier for me, so that way if we don't take a dime, if you're on probation, I don't touch your money. I have nothing to do with your money.
Just back on the building.
Yes, sir.
Is it in better shape now than it was? Is that-
It's okay. We may do. It is a winter, so it'll be really cold. I believe I had a phone conversation with Chuck Ward today, who owns that building, he and Mr. Wilson, and they are looking at selling that building, so it'll be going up for sale. The caveat is that we will remain as a tenant until we decide to vacate it. So whoever purchases it, they will have to honor the agreement. But it's up for sale. It'll be up for sale soon, from my understanding.
But are you, but look, ask you to know, are you happy there, somewhat happy there, or not very happy there?
That's a hard question to answer. I'm happy wherever we go, we have space. I'm thankful. Let me just say I'm thankful. But as far as, we need a bigger space, and it's just, and parking is a hard thing, and being right there at the bottom of the square, it's the attraction. I understand that. So, I mean, I'm happy to go anywhere. We put us on Broad, you put us over on Mercury, it doesn't matter where you put us. I mean, as long as people can get there, we have the space. I'm willing to go anywhere.
Y'all have heard the money report. I guess we have to take a motion on it to approve it.
Make the motion to approve his report.
Motion set. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you all.
You don't have a budget item or anything,
Thank
do
you. Sir?
You don't have a budget item or anything, do you?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. I'm good.
You're good. Anybody here on property management? This one,
I have no budget items.
all right.
Do we have those?
What?
They were sent over.
I think he said he does.
I don't have any budget items, I'm sorry.
Because I thought I didn't see.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have any.
Tim, what are salary supplements? It's
Salary supplements are the supplements that are paid each year from post for training. Money's put in the budget and then we're reimbursed from state for that.
but we haven't spent any of it yet?
Well, we haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, okay. Good. Anything to your knowledge out of order?
No, sir, there's not anything that I see that's particularly out of order.
You said you were running about 850 out there.
It's averaging, fluctuation some, but that's, we're averaging right at 850. We're running 850 and probably we're looking at about another 26 to 28 that we run through booking that actually are either RR or what are they. So you could, as far as the total that goes through our facility, it's going to be around 870, 880, somewhere in that neighborhood. About 850 is what we're housing pretty consistently.
How many are state prisoners?
252.
That's been staying fairly constant?
That stays fairly constant. We make a stride where we'll send 5, 6, or 7, and then we seem to get that many back in. So they're coming in the system that are, and of course, like, you know, every one of them are waiting just on bed space. We've got one gentleman that's basically what they do. Is they're looking, part of their job is looking for bed space every day. We're querying TDOC for bed space going that way or going to workhouse on the misdemeanor going the other way. So that's a constant every day.
Questions?
Sheriff, what was the gasoline decrease?
That, I looked at
That's a
that and
huge
I
number.
wished I had an answer because I looked
Okay.
at it earlier and I don't have an answer for
Okay.
you on that. I have that same question.
Yeah, that just seemed
It's
pretty significant.
There's something there that's not right.
Okay.
But I saw that this afternoon and I figured somebody would ask that question and the lady that would answer it for us.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So I don't know, but I'll have to find out. I will get you an answer on that.
Yeah, it went the wrong
It's
way
a-
real fast.
Yeah, but it come back up.
You come back up, but it's a pretty
Right.
significant drop there. And it could be the way, and actually what it could be, and what I'm thinking is the way the building came out on it, is probably what the answer
Okay.
is on that, but I'm not sure enough to tell you that that's what it is.
Sure.
Sometimes the way our billing cycles, it'll hit into another month before we
Got it.
get it paid.
Okay.
Works like mine.
Yeah. Goes in here, comes out here.
One gives, the other takes away.
It does. He who taketh seems to be higher than what giveth, isn't it?
I thought that was called a wife. Oh, we don't have cable, thank goodness.
I was gonna say,
But it's on YouTube.
you just got every one of us in trouble. Can I say, he said that?
Oh, boy. Any further questions of the sheriff?
You're supposed to keep him in line.
Sometimes something like that slips out.
It just had to come out.
He was a good straight man.
I hear you.
Make a motion that we approve the sheriff's report as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next month, can you give us an update on how we're doing with state monies on the state prisoners?
There's one in here, but I will. Yeah, capture will. Thank you.
Sure.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Good evening.
Everything's going great with you?
Doing well, thank you, sir. I'd like to report that in the month of November, we had a total of 15 injuries requiring medical attention. You see the breakdown there in front of you. That brings the total for the year to 198. Of those, 122 of them are recordable under OSHA. 55 were restricted days, 27 lost time days, and 40 all others. As you look at the next page of the report, you'll see where we compared this year at this time to the 2 previous years. We are running slightly bit ahead right now as far as claims, but of course remind you that we've had additional school added this year and some people, and so that's kind of expected as you add people and things like that. As far as the incurred dollars, we're up to $679,000, and you see from your report, compared to the 2 previous years, both of them happen to be $449,000 at this time. Again, remind you about the spike that we had in May for one injury. That one was over $200,000 just by itself. So that's where that spike comes in. Takes that. The total incurred dollars for the 15 injuries this month was $86,287. The Board of Education had 8 of those injuries, and the incurred dollars for the Board of Education was $76,737. And the County General had the other 7 for $9,550. And then your last page of your report, I directed that, and that breaks down where those injuries are within the County General, within the Sheriff Department, Correctional Work Center, Paul, Solid Waste, and Fire and Rescue.
Seems like these falls, slips, and trips just keep racking up, you know? I mean, I don't think you can justify it on just the basis because we had one school, really and truly. I mean, that's just one school out of several schools. And it seems to me that, I mean, $70-something thousand, you know, that's a lot of money for tripping and falling.
Well, unfortunately,
you know, it's not a, you know, I guess I need to ask in Health and Ed, what's the schools actively doing to prevent that? Because it just seems to keep going.
Yes, sir.
It might be beneficial if you bring in some of those claims, you know, some of the reports, maybe a month's worth of reports next time, just for those slip, trips, and falls. They seem to be sort of, I mean, just not necessarily not preventable, but just, you know, somebody walking into a desk door pulled out, or
that is preventable.
What I
don't disagree with you.
What I would like to see on the report would be, are any of them caused by students?
Well, I do bring in, and I have prepared for things like this when you ask these questions. We have one here while running to get an assistant for a student. So a student was having an event.
Mm-hmm.
And while they were doing that, the employee slipped and fell while the student was having a seizure.
See, that's what I'm getting at, though. If we're spending this much money on this, running and endangering yourself as a first responder, I learned 40 years ago, the first thing, you're no help to anyone else if you are injured yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the number one priority is keeping your body in the capability to help that other person. And so I just wonder what we're doing in the way of mitigation on this to put that thought out there. Yeah, you can get from point A to point B about as fast walking as you can running, unless you're, you know, it depends on the person. But what are we doing? What are we doing training? And maybe that's best asked by the Board of Education, but it does fall under your department, and you're the one paying out the claims and so on. So
the other thing is are they happening in the same schools? Or
Well, no, it happens across the
some
whole
more than
thing.
others?
Yes. Well, when we say some, obviously there may be one school that may have a couple of claims, but it's not going to be like they are 7 or 8 ahead of everybody else. It doesn't occur that way. I can put something together for you and bring it next
I
time, kind
appreciate
of
it.
do that for the slip, trips, and falls and let
And
you
and I'll
know.
ask that Health and Ed about directly from the Board of
Yeah,
Education.
one of the big things is, of course, you know, you get into is when young children, people, you know, they'll get off, you try and chase them down or something like that. But in addition to that, some of the things that they do at school, like waxing the floors every year, and you get the floors waxed, and then you get water on the
I
floor.
brought up on a couple of questions that this is causing a major issue and costing us thousands of dollars. So we're spending X number of thousands of dollars to wax the floors, and then X number of thousands of dollars to pay for injuries caused by those waxed floors. Something's not right. That's my statement. Enough said.
You got here, what, 12,000 per slip, trip, or fall injury last month, is what we, and that's a high number for a fall.
Well, when somebody slips and falls, the thing you see is the cause of the injury. You don't see the results of that. Somebody falls on their knee, and then they end up tearing something in their knee, and then there's a surgery on that knee. Or if they fracture the kneecap or tear something, then of course that's where that comes into. And as a result of that, I've had one individual, when they slipped and fell, they reached up and tried to catch themselves. Well, while they tried to reach up and catch themselves, they ended up tearing their rotator cuff. And so then, what was the cause of the accident? Slip, trip, and fall. But what the result was, a torn rotator cuff that had required surgery. So those are the kind of things that causes slip, trip, and falls to go up. If somebody starts to slip and fall, and rather than try and grab onto something, they all just cuddle down and take the fall, of course, you get banged up a little bit more, but you may not tear something in your shoulder or something like that. So, and it all gets back to, like you said, individual training, people knowing how to do it, but we got, that's one of the things that the school board teaches. They're concentrating on the students and how to handle the students, and not always, like with fire and rescue, how to protect themselves.
Back on waxing the floors.
Yes.
Now, do the students know when they wax? Do they announce? Because most of the time, the rooms get waxed when you're out of school, like at Christmas
Yes, they
break
do.
and in the summers. But now the hallways may be more frequent.
No, usually all the waxing occurs during the summer months. They put the high coat of wax down and things like that. You'll see a lot more results of the slip, trips, and falls from that. But also you'll see them that happen around the cafeteria, where people be in the cafeteria walking where a child spilled milk or water on the floor, and you don't see it because of the congestion of the area, and somebody will walk and slip on that.
Further questions of Mr. Good? Now, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You get to watch, you can watch as custodians over Christmas at the schools and how they're waxing the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Gregory.
You have the report for November in front of you. We had 582 animals that came into the shelter. We had a live release rate on our dogs of 93% for the month, 91.1% for our cats. Overall, we had a euthanasia rate of 5.6%, so still very pleased with that. Call volume, mileage, all that stuff is within normal ranges for this time of year. On the rabies and bite exposures, we had 23 bites reported for the month, 12 other exposures. We sent on 4 of those for testing and did not have one return positive, so we're thankful on that as well for at least the last 6 months, no positive rabies cases in the county. A couple of things not on the report, but I wanted to bring to your attention. First of all, we opened last Sunday for our first Sunday of adoptions. We did, I think, 7 or 8 that day, and then we did 6 yesterday. We've taken a couple of weeks off because of the holidays, but we do have extended hours on Saturdays and open on Sundays now, so that's going well. and something that'll be coming down the pike over the next 30 to 60 days. Spoken to the mayor about this, is taking our surrender desk and moving that to appointments. We have a lot of folks that show up, we never know who's coming, and we'll have folks lined out there sitting in their lawn chairs, this, that, and the other, waiting to get in. So we're going to go to an appointment base to surrender animals. That way we can take the time and actually spend with folks, and then them not have to wait as often. And I did want to thank you all for your vote last week on the cats, taking those couple of phrases out of the rules and regulations. I sat down and did the math before the meeting, and for some of our cats that come in, based on how we were having to hold them in the holidays and weekends and those type things, if a cat came in, we were having to hold some of those guys up to 8 days before they could be released. It's going to take that down to 2 now. That's all I have on the report.
Questions on the report? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify of approving the report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Some budget
I
amendment?
have 2 budget amendments. The first one is to continue to move some more money out of our attendant line to our overtime line to cover our FMLA and our vacancies. We've stopped some of that bleeding. We've had at least one person come back, but we know we've got a couple more that are going to be going out over the next few months, so that's to cover that. The second part of the amendment is to move some money that we didn't spend on some other line items over to our maintenance and repair of buildings. We had to have about a $5,800 repair to our roof that we were not expecting this year. We only have a $19,000 building maintenance budget. That's a pretty big hit to take within the first couple of months of the budget year. That will help to replenish part of that. It's all within budget.
The building's about 13 years old?
It is. We had some roof damage back, was it 2011 that we had that hailstorm? And then it was never, the insurance paid us, but it was never completed. They came out and gave us a couple of options of either going ahead and replacing the roof or doing these repairs. And the mayor's option was to do the repairs to try to buy at least a couple of more years. But within the next 2 years, we're going to have to replace it.
Shingled roof?
It is. There were several spots to where the, I would call it the decking, I don't know if that's the correct term or not, was coming up. You could actually see down into part of the building. They repaired a lot of that and repaired a lot of, I believe it's called flashing, metal work around a lot of different vents and whatnot. But we haven't had any leaks since.
Make a motion to approve the budget request as presented.
Second.
Second. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
All right. The next budget amendment is to recognize a grant from PetSmart. I went back and looked through our minutes. I thought I'd asked for permission on this, but I could not find where that was done. I think it was around budget time, so I don't know if it was because the meeting was missed or what. But we applied for a grant with PetSmart for $27,500 to expand our current surgery room into our existing storage room, and then also to purchase additional equipment. The surgery room that we have now was really only set up for 1 table. We have 2 in there, but on the days that we have the extra veterinarian, really only 1 person can do surgery. This is to come in and build a couple walls, put in ceilings, outlets, those type things, so that we can fit up to 4 surgery tables, so we can have 2 veterinarians running at the same time, and also purchase equipment to go with that. Once we priced out the equipment that we were going to need, we were around $4,000 short, so we're asking to move $4,000 out of our Paul's donation line to help cover that added expense.
You get a pretty healthy contribution in gifts and donations here.
We do. It runs anywhere from $21,000 to $25,000 a year.
You heard the request.
Motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Did that motion also include for the mayor to sign for that grant as well?
Okay.
I just wanted
That's
to-
fine.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure
No,
that we had
it's-
no hiccups.
That's fine. If I need to add that, I can add that. They covered everything.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
We're going to
Well, your
service.
motion was to send it to
Okay.
Craig and sign it.
Yeah. Look for them. Yeah, I had the necessary language.
All right.
Hello. Evening. How did you get so lucky tonight?
You know how that works. All right, just briefly, 2,833 calls for the month. Response time 7.5 minutes, 51 DOAs and 16 autopsies. Our billing is 1.5 million, collection 656,000, and year-to-date 3.3 million. 8 million is the projection, or a little over 8 million. 66% collection rate, and then of course the write-offs. Below that are the maintenance on the vehicles.
Are we waiting on any vehicles to come?
I think we have 2 in Indiana they're going to go get. I think they're ready.
Looks like SR1 is finally racked up over 200,000.
Oh, yeah. Sure. We need a new one. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not the one that would ask for it. But anyway, the next page is just some events from in-services and trainings, REACT and standbys and special events in our SWORD operations and Honor Guard. Next page is just a brief SORT printout. Looking at it, it's a little confusing to me, but I think the bottom line is 157 incidents for SORT for the month, 11/1 to 11/30. The next page, we were keeping you up to date on our sick time at FMLA and sick leave and on-the-job injury leave. Comes to 99 days of sick leave taken. Of course, you know, some of those are 24-hour days because they're 24-hour personnel. And we have a few letters, thank yous, acknowledgements. And that's the report. We have a budget amendment.
Questions on the report of Mr. Hatcher? Move we approve the report.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Budget amendment?
All right. I'm not sure how much the commission is up to speed on our recent events, but evidently the state has passed a law creating a program that helps with reimbursement for TennCare and Medicaid. But in doing so, they're handling it like they do the nursing home had a bed tax, they called it, where they accumulate all the money from providers, nursing homes, and they put it into a fund, and then they get matching funds from the federal government. And then they dole it back to the providers at a increased funding rate. Same thing happened here. It passed recently. They just now came up with the tabulations, and we were sent a bill for $46,000, and that's what went through the budget committee because the deadline to pay it was the 27th of December. We didn't get the bill till, I think, December 4th or sometime after that, or I think it's postmarked then. So I think they felt like to run it through the budget right away to try to not miss it. The budget just passed that first quarter deal of $46,000, And then this is the additional funding to that account to cover the next 2 quarters. The checks, we just got word today that our checks that we're going to get back for that $46,000 is $133,000. So it's a net gain of $87,000. So really, we're just moving money to the state fund. They give us back 3 times that, and then it goes back into our revenue fund. So what we're doing tonight is just funding the additional 2 quarters, or putting the 2 quarters in the budget, allocated at 93, or the additional to a total of $139,000. $46,600 is already there. We're asking to move $93,150 to that assessment account, fines, assessment, and penalties account. Now, questions?
I got lots of them. But I was wondering, budget to abstain, and I voted against this at the commission because I didn't know that much about it because it's stuck. Why do we need the money now that we haven't, in that account, that we haven't been billed for yet?
Well, Lisa wanted to go ahead and ask for it. But it's just got to be allocated to it because we know we're going to have to pay it.
Okay. Are we always going to get every quarter more money than we put in?
That's what the plan is supposed to do.
Have we gotten any of that money yet? No, I don't
We
think
were notified today. Our billing company let us know today that they have been advised that we have a total of checks coming this year before January 1st, supposedly, of $133,000. So if you know, and to be honest with you, I didn't even know about this until Wednesday of last week. I've never even heard of this because it's not in my wheelhouse, but I've learned a lot about it in just a few days.
Well, none of us knew about it in the budget either when it came through Mark.
I think there was some confusion on, we get all our information from TASA, from, the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association. And they have lobbyists there, and there were actually people in the industry that lobbied for this. And it's probably nothing new. It probably happens in multiple states. They use the verbiage of contracted participating providers with TennCare and Medicaid. We're not one. So it flew under our radar because whenever they discussed it at TASA, that's how they described it. And even their latest incarnation of it, when they sent out an update on December 1st to everybody, it said contracted providers. So, and we're not one. So it kind of surprised us. The only way we had information on it was through TASA, and we didn't know that we were actually what they meant. They didn't mean contracted providers. They mean anybody that bills TennCare. So we kind of got caught with it too. So that's why it was never included until now.
But they're going to take, and they've got it set up that they go back and at certain quarters and find out how many trips we made, mine it, leaving the Medicaid trips out. If it's Medicaid, we don't get charged for, right?
Well,
and it's just
it's mainly TennCare, but TennCare and Medicaid are really closely related. There's some, they kind of come in that same umbrella. But what it is, they take everybody that's providing TennCare services. They take all of their calls, and they get that reporting from EMS, the state of EMS. We don't get it. We would only know ours, but they get it from them, and then they take that and they create a factor. So they say let's say there's 1 million calls statewide, which is probably more than that even, I don't know. And they divide that into the 10 million that they want to generate, because I think that's the targets. I saw that in there. So you're looking at $10 a call. And so that's what they're they take that as the factor. The million divided by 10, which is $10. It's actually $909, I think, is what they came up with. And then they go to each organization and they say, well, you made 3,000 calls this quarter. So your bill is 3,000 times the 10, that's $30,000. So they took and so that's the bill to the assessment. And then the reimbursement is based on the actual calls that you billed TennCare for. So, but the allocation is higher than what we would normally get, and so that's why the numbers are so much bigger. So it's kind of a grand scheme, You know, if you think about it. But that's what they did with the nursing homes. They did the same thing.
But your Murfreesboro medical ambulance and First Alert or whatever, they don't get charged anything because they're just carriers?
No, if they bill TennCare, they got to hit with the same thing we
Just
did.
taking somebody to,
Well, and they may even be
dialysis or
providers.
something?
If it's TennCare, if
okay.
one of the ambulance services in the county doesn't deal with TennCare at all, so they're not part of it. They didn't get involved. They won't get anything back, and they didn't get assessed anything. But any of the private services in Metro and any other places that bill TennCare, they have the same formula applied to them. So if they, for instance, ran the same number of calls as us, they'd get the same bill.
So next month, we're going to have a budget amendment from EMS that's going to be showing an increase going into your
Into our revenues.
sign for public health.
Well, I'm not even sure exactly how that line item is.
But we'll see something going back in, so we'll know.
Yeah, it should be something back in.
Everything's on the up and up.
Exactly.
Okay. But, to make a long story short, we don't have any choice. About paying. It's what you would call what, Brad?
The unfunded mandate.
No,
There you
this
go.
one is funded.
This one's funded,
We think, but we haven't gotten it yet.
I think it's more,
Unfunded side.
this is more of an unaware mandate, I think.
Okay.
Probably a better way
I
to
do
word it.
have some additional information I'll be glad to pass out to you that I created. And it's everything that I learned in the past few days.
Well, I ran Mark Tucker.
One of those is the actual invoice that we got. And then the next page is what you have. But then we get to what TASA sent out on December 1st, or 4th. That was the explanation of it. But I also went ahead and printed off a summary, a fiscal note, and a summary on the bill. And it kind of explains it. And I made a copy for everybody in here. Just in case it came up. I wasn't sure how much you guys had already learned about it.
No, I think
So I
it was
didn't want
what
to just immediately go
Commissioner
down.
Schaefer, it was more around what he was saying was the surprise factor more than it was the actual implementation or program itself.
This will make good bedtime reading.
Yeah.
But at least maybe understand a little bit. But I just, you hate to get something and it's thrown in front of you and you owe $46,000, you know?
Well, yeah.
So, okay. So gentlemen, we need to make a motion in a second, and I guess approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget request as presented.
Second.
A motion is second. Further questions? So we'll see it when you know where you're going to put it next month. Call the roll, please, Becky.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, thank you, Mr. Cast.
All right. Tonight I have a rather short report plus a grant contract along with corresponding budget amendment. First, my report, this time of the year is when we get fewer requests for things such as training, so we have a little less going on in that respect. And you'll see we just have just a little bit of that going on. Upcoming events, not a lot of changes over the last meeting, except now showing you some February events and to include our next LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee meeting, which is on February the 7th, and I'll be at the Agri-Park as well. We're having, since LEPCs were first designed to focus on the hazardous materials and reporting, we actually have someone from E-Plan, which is how all these companies that deal with reportable quantities of hazardous materials report. We have someone from E-Plan who's going to come in and give a talk and do a little more education on that at that time, so it'll be really good for our corporate corporate partners, I should say, to get that. So, on response, we had 3 responses this month. So since the last meeting, 2 of them. One was overturned, cement truck leaking hydraulic fluid, pickup in a creek, and the third one was interesting in that it was an ELT that went off. An ELT is an electronic an emergency location transmitter. It's usually on aircraft. This was at the landfill. Apparently someone threw one away some time ago, and something happened at the landfill caused it to go off. And yeah, so we figured out that's what had gone on, and there was nothing, because those things are registered, of course, to specific aircraft and owners, so they had to respond to it. So I figured out what had happened, and nothing really came of it, but it got everybody excited for just a little while, because the first inclination is something crashed at the
Plane
landfill.
crash, yeah.
Got buried on Walter Mountain.
Yeah. I mean, there's better places to crash, you know. So, but anyway, that's basically, very quickly, unless you have questions for me, my report.
How bad was that hydraulically?
I remember I'm not even sure if it was 25 gallons. It was not a very
No,
big one.
it says here, I just got to the page.
Okay.
It says it's not. Okay.
And usually that's kind of our rule of thumb is 25 gallons is a big deal. Unless it goes into a water source, then any amount is a big deal.
Well, no, that's basically don't trust in cement trucks that where I live on narrow roads. And there's an area they're building, and I'm not, I forget who it is, it's some big developer, and this thing will go like heck going down that little curvy country roads out there.
The way we're growing, you're going to see more.
The roads aren't going to keep up with it.
If I was you, I'd complain to my commissioner.
Well, it's in the city, so it's worthless. Okay. Anybody have any questions on the report? Now, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Motion? Second. In a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the other thing is there's two annual grants that I deal with. One of them you saw last meeting, which was the Emergency Preparedness Grant. This is Homeland Security District 5. It's our grant for those, and it's $129,197. EMAs act as the conduit to disperse that money to public safety agencies within each county, not just county public safety agencies, cities as well. And the way this works is they have representatives that go to specific committees. Say there's an EMS committee, there is an EMS, not just say, there's a law enforcement committee, there's response, there's others. Representatives from these public safety agencies go to those committees within District 5, put forth what they want to spend the money on. As long as it meets the requirements, it gets put on the list, and then it gets up to the task force level, and the 7 EMA directors, and I'm one of them, vote on what we're going to fund. And this year, the district got $692,000, a little bit more than that. So we got about 19% of that for Rutherford County projects. There's about 8 different projects related to this. All I'm asking you to do is move forward to approve and go budget so that the mayor can eventually sign it. Of course, we're going to need the budget amendment with it so we can disperse the money for the projects when the time comes. I'm trying to get smarter on doing this together so that I'm not wasting a lot of your time and making this take longer than it should.
That it's just a block grant that, as long as projects that are approved.
Yes,
for
as long as
that
it meets the
money,
priorities for
you're able
Homeland
to make the
Security.
decision.
Yes.
That's good. So local people are able to make those decisions.
Yes,
based on local needs.
and if they don't spend the money on what we ask them for, if they find some reason why they can't make the purchase or their numbers are wrong, sometimes we'll get a situation where they end up with extra money, and then we try to reallocate it for the same priority, or with same priority with the same organization. Say it's SORT, we'll try to do that. If we can't, then we go back and have discussion with District 5 about, hey, can we move it to this other priority? That has happened on occasion.
Yeah.
But generally, these go right to the projects, because the project's already been approved. It's just getting the money now and getting it spent. And I don't like to let money sit, because it's not worth more the longer it sits.
Sure. So you need approval of the amount of the grant with all signatures needed and the budget amendment.
To move the money to our, yes, because we're the ones that do the spending actually.
So you heard the request.
You want to take those individually or together?
I think we can, I plan on taking them in together.
Well,
To go.
whatever.
We'll just,
I'm easy.
we'll just call the roll on it and go with it.
I'll make a motion to approve the acceptance of the grant and to amend EMA budget in the same amount and allow the mayor to sign.
Second.
Question? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. And for everybody that didn't maybe remember, even though we had it here earlier, June 23rd, it's June 25th would be our June meeting, but that's right after we just had our commission meeting. We don't have another commission meeting until August. Yeah, so we'll probably cancel that one unless something dramatic comes up on June 25th. Anybody have anything else?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all and to all of y'all watching out there in TV land. Have a wonderful one. We're adjourned.